So tension abroad translates into tension in European affairs because the stakes, the possible rewards for a successful power play are now much greater. The text makes a big deal out of Germany's naval expansion, how this was viewed as a threat by Great Britain. But it's really difficult to say that if Germany hadn't expanded their naval fleet, that war could have been prevented, or maybe relations between Germany and Great Britain would be much stronger. The United States, France, Italy, Austria, Russia, the Ottoman Empire, Japan, they are all expanding their navy as well. This is just sort of a theme that's going on at this particular time because a large navy is necessary for your protection of your own empire and your international prestige. So, Germany's not doing too much of anything that other countries around the world at this time are not doing as well. There's a very delicate balance between maintaining open communication and having good diplomacy amongst the major players while looking out for one's own interests, one's own international standing. So this means forming alliances with other countries who also have a common foe. So the period of 1908 through 1914 is really the part in which we see the failure of this system. The Bosnian crisis really helps bring everything to a head. This involves the Balkan states, Bosnia-Herzegovina, Austria-Hungary, Russia, Serbia, France, Britain, the Ottoman Empire, and Italy. There are major disputes between Serbia and Austria-Hungary which call the alliances and other countries' motives into question. Russia feels humiliated by Austria-Hungary and Germany, the fact that they are besting them in terms of influence in the Balkans and around the world. And they're struggling to make peace with also bringing France in as an ally. So there's very little flexibility in terms of this alliance system now. And the bitterness of losers in any sort of interaction is going to actually make them more determined to leave the concert of Europe or the Congress system that has so far been governing international diplomacy in Europe. So the Serbian crisis, or the assassination of Archduke Francis Ferdinand and his wife Sophie, it certainly helped spark a decision to go to war. But Europe really wasn't required to go to war. They really chose the actions which promoted the war rather than peace. Because the Serbian crisis is really only a small part of it that could have been possibly dealt with between Serbia, Austria, and then of course Russia, Germany, and France are probably going to be brought into this as well. But it's not just the Serbian crisis. For each country, war was preferable to a particular alternative. Serbia feels if they back down, they don't go to war, that's going to sabotage their anti-Austria nationalism. Austria feels that if they sort of let Serbia get away with this, that's going to be another point of decline in their status and security. And Austria-Hungary is probably one of the most minor players in this circle. Russia feels that if they back down, they're going to experience more military and diplomatic humiliation. Germany feels that if Austria backs down, if they don't boost up Austria, they are going to lose an ally, and that might actually damage their prestige. France feels the same way in terms of supporting Russia. So Germany has to support Austria-Hungary against Russia to help Germany. France has to help Russia to defeat Austria-Hungary so they don't look bad in front of Germany. And Great Britain is really more concerned about trying to maintain the status quo. And they see if something kicks off, if they don't come in, they can't help sort everything out afterwards. So it's very convoluted. And for many people, for the most of the general population, once they strip away these nationalism arguments, once they go through the reality of the war, they say, why couldn't you work this out? This all seems so pointless. So for the war itself, there is huge public enthusiasm in almost every European country because this is seen as a test of their nationalist ambition. But European countries are largely unprepared for the reality of war. You have some troops who have served in colonial regiments and some minor European wars, but most of the European armies are staffed out of volunteers. Those are the main soldiers on the ground. So they go through some preliminary 10-week, 14-week training, and then they're sent out. So this idea of war being over in 2 months, we'll be home by Christmas, this is very much typical of the attitude of volunteers at this time, that war is seen as an adventure and there's very little risk maintained in it. There have been very few European wars on the continent that really required all the resources of these individual countries. And anyone who has been fighting within the colonies, although those battles could become very, very deadly, on the other hand, you're not really fighting against an equal European foe who possesses the same tactics, the same strategies, and the same technology that you do. So warfare for World War I is a combination of old and new techniques. Trenches for the defensive lines, railroads to move troops and supplies, machine Gatling guns, the introduction of aeroplanes, all of this are new innovations. But all of this force is also utilized at once by both sides. And when you have two equal forces slamming against each other, you're not really going to see any move that produces a stalemate. The old warfare really refers to the specific military tactics, concentrating all the power in one area of your enemy's lines, hoping that they are going to break and you can push through and surround them. So and that's pretty much the common battle plan for almost every single engagement. You're going to concentrate all your firepower, all your manpower, if you're on the offensive that particular day, at a strategic location. If you can break that strategic location, gain that ground, then you can push your enemy further back. And then obviously those who are on the defensive are going to do whatever they can to hold the line. The lines almost never break, and when they do, the gains are rarely worth the cost. Now the clips I provided of Blackadder Goes Forth, it's definitely a comic portrayal of World War I, and yet there's something about it that is so eerily accurate of the actions of that time.